I've had apologies from Christine, and yeah. If you turn the camera off, because your sound's breaking up, Emrys. Okay. Right, I've had apologies from Christine, and I know that Melvin has to leave us at 10:30. I've had no other apologies at the moment, but Pat or might join us. She might be having a problem getting on. So we go first of all to the appointment of the vice chair. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you to Emrys for being the vice chair for the last few years, which has been a great support to me. And always amiable, always happy to have stepped in when I was poorly. So I want to thank him for that. But I also want to put Emrys forward for the position of vice chair. Have I a seconder?
I'll second that. If needed.
Too many.
Yeah.
Nearly everybody. So we'll start with David and as seconder for Emrys, yeah?
Yeah, that's fine.
Is there any other nominations? No, I take that as no. So Emrys, you are duly elected as my vice chair, and I hope to work well with you for this coming year.
Thank you. It's my privilege, and thank you, committee, for the nomination and the support. And I hope I won't have to sit in your seat too much over the final year of this term, but if I need to, you know where to call, and then we'll have our meetings in any case.
I will do. For the records, can I have a full show of hands, please? Thank you. Have we any declarations of interest? No, and I have no urgent matters. So we'll go.
Could I, I'm sorry to interrupt you there. In the last meeting of this group, we did raise the matter of when we were going to begin doing again. Because we all found them very, very useful. Have we any news about the beginning of our pre-meetings?
Okay, I can explain that. Okay, yeah, Rian.
Yeah, just on that point, we'll come to that actually under the work programme report. There is a couple of paragraphs in there about pre-meetings and how we can go about holding them again, because we did have a discussion at the Scrutiny Chairs and Vice Chairs group about it at the end of April. So if it's okay with you, we can go into more detail about that under that report.
Okay, thank you, Rian. The reason I raised this now is that our pre-meetings are very useful because we can arrange between ourselves to share out the questions. And I go to so many meetings these days where people ask the same question that's just been asked by somebody else the few moments before. And I'd like you to promise me, Chair, that if I ask a question that's already been asked, that you will tell me to shut up. Thank you, Chair.
Reece, I'd never do that. I would never shut you up. I haven't for the last 3 years, and I'm not going to start now, Liv.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. So should we go to the minutes then of the 15th of April? And for accuracy first, we'll go for page 7, page 8, page 9, and page 10. I have no matters arising. Has anybody else? I think they're a good reflection of the minutes, and I thank the minute taker. Thank you very much. a show of hands? Propose and a seconder. Thank you, Hugh Irving. Thank you, Reese. Now a show of hands. Thank you. We'll now go to agenda item 6, and I believe our leader, Hugh Evans, is going to start us off. And can I ask you to also introduce the officers that are involved? Thank you.
Thank you, Janetta, and morning, everybody. Yes, I will introduce who's involved in this presentation today. And this is an update, of course, about the growth deal, which was agreed in full council in last year in 2020 and signed by all 6 local authorities in December 2020. So we are now in the delivery phase. Part of that agreement is the D2. 4.1, 4.2 and 4.3 of the report. So as part of that agreement, we are obliged to come to scrutiny to give you an update twice a year. And this is a submission of Q4 and an update on the annual report. Joining me today will be Anwen Williams, the Portfolio Director, which you have all met before, and Hayth Vaughan Evans, the Operations Manager, who many of you will know from his previous experience in Denbighshire, which I hope was a good one, Hayth. And I'm not sure if Nia's joining us as well as the Senior Operations Officer. She usually does join us, just to keep an eye on everything that's going on. Also joining us today, Chair, will be our own officers who are working on different programmes on the growth deal, and that will be Barry Eden, who's working on the digital element, Helen Vaughan Evans on energy, Graham Bowes, who's there already anyway with land and property, James Evans on innovation, high value and manufacturing, and Emlyn Jones on agri-tourism. And it's really important that they attend today because we do meet on a quarterly basis as they can sort of work with the portfolio management team to influence or to understand what's going on a regional basis and to give us a heads up of what the impact is that likely to be on Denbighshire. So it's really important and they have engaged well with the team in order to look after Denbigshire's interest. As board member, I am pleased to put this report before you today. I was fortunate last week to hear the presentation on the Moralised project, which was the first one. And I was quite amazed, really, very surprised at the level of detail that these projects have to go into before they become clear business cases for consideration. So there's an awful lot of work that goes behind the scenes on this, and rightly so, probably because there is a big element of public funds in this, but also, apart from being scrutinised by the 6 authorities in North Wales, we are also scrutinised by Welsh Government and Westminster. So the portfolio team are scrutinised from all angles on this one. So I'm really comfortable that the approach that they are doing is very professional and high level. And I do hope that you as scrutiny members today will feel assured of the work that they are doing so far, as we are now, as I said, in delivery phase. So that's it quickly for me, Chair. I'll hand you over now to Anwen, who's going to lead us on the portfolio and the quarterly updates.
Diolch Arweinydd. Thank you, Leader. And bore da pawb. Good morning, everyone. I hope you can see me okay and hear me okay. I'm going to lead through a short presentation just as a refresher, really, of our key programmes and projects. Then I will hand over to Hayth, and Hayth's going to take you through the headlines in the quarterly and in the annual report contained within your pack. You bear with me a second. I'm just going to try and share my screen. And when I share my screen, I can't see you anymore. So hopefully you can see that. If someone can shout if you can't see it, and I'll try again. Otherwise, I'll start. The aim of the growth deal, as we know, is to sort of build a more vibrant, a more sustainable and a more resilient economy in North Wales, and building on the strengths that we already have in the region to boost productivity, but also tackling some of the long-term challenges and those economic barriers that perhaps have prevented us from delivering inclusive economic growth for our region in the past. The approach that we're taking is to promote growth in a way that's scalable, that enables us to be sustainable, and in a way that aligns really well with the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act. In our business cases at the portfolio level, we'd identified 3 key spending objectives. You can see these spending objectives outlined on the screen now. The first one being job creation. And when we say jobs, we mean new jobs into the economy. So not just a shift of jobs from one area into another area, but actually net new jobs into the economy. And also high value jobs. So those jobs that earn the salaries that perhaps would have driven young people away from North Wales in the past. We want to create the opportunities that will keep that talent in our local economy. And we want to create up to 4,200 new jobs. GVA is the second of our spending objectives, and we want to increase the GVA of the economy, so the value of the economy, of between 2 and 2.4 billion by 2036, which is the term or the lifetime of the growth deal. And then finally, investment. So with 240 million coming in as an investment through both governments and with our Economic Ambition Board also investing, but also with additional investment from the private sector and other funding from the public sector. It is an investment of up to £1 billion in the local economy here. The growth deal itself is based on delivery of 14 transformational projects, and these projects sit across 5 programmes. The programmes have been defined as either high growth programmes or enabling programmes. And if the 5 programmes are shown on the screen, apologies, they're in Welsh only for some reason, but in yellow we've got low carbon energy, in purple we've got innovation in high value manufacturing, in orange we've got agri-food and tourism, in green land and property, and then digital in pink, I think. I'll start with the 2 programmes that are focused on enabling the region. So digital connectivity and land and property. These 2 programmes are funded by the growth deal. There are also, just to mention, there are 2 other programmes that are enabling programmes. I'm not going to cover them today because they're not funded by the growth deal. But these 2 programmes are skills and employment and strategic transport. We've identified enabling sectors through the growth deal. We've also identified enabling sectors through the growth deal. Sorry, the sectors that are enabling are there to tackle economic barriers and address structural issues that have impacted on productivity and jobs. Delivery in these sectors will create the appropriate conditions for businesses to be able to invest in the region and for the labour market to be able to take advantage of the new employment opportunities. A strategic approach will be taken with our investments, ensuring that they're well targeted in order to enable economic and employment growth across the region. And it's all being done in partnership. I think it's really important to mention the partnership here. North Wales is very often cited as sort of best practice for being cohesive and being able to sort of mobilise very quickly to work together. And that partnership between both governments under the growth deal brings us closer together in that respect. So first of all, on digital, the programme is truly regional. It reaches everywhere, and it aims to invest in improving that digital connectivity, which I think we can all see has become an absolute lifeline over the last 12 months because of the restrictions through COVID. The region and North Wales needs to be able to meet the needs of our customers and of our citizens. This programme addresses areas that have been difficult for the commercial sector to invest in, and it will help to unlock the growth potential for key priority sectors and also, importantly, key sites in North Wales. This investment also enables innovation to happen. It's an enabler for other programmes across the portfolio and enables businesses across all sectors to flourish. The digital programme has identified a need to balance investment and infrastructure and technology through both fixed broadband at key sites and in rural areas, unlocking also new applications through 5G technology and furthering and advancing digital innovation. There are two main components in the digital programme, and these two components are the digital connectivity project and also a project with Bangor University, which is more around innovation, called the Digital Signal Processing Centre, or DSP. So I'll just go through really quickly what the projects are. We've got a full fibre project. This full fibre project will deliver full fibre connectivity, which is gigabit capable. That's fibre all the way from the exchange to the premise at 28 key business sites across North Wales. And some 4,100 businesses and premises and around 450 residential premises will be able to access gigabit capable full fibre broadband once the project is completed. We've got a connected campus project, and by campuses I mean key sites of economic activity, and this project will accelerate the development of infrastructure for 19 key regional economic sites, and it's estimated that around 2,600 business premises will have access to high bandwidth 5G and low power Wi-Fi services, so therefore better connectivity. Connected corridor, this responds to industry demands and technology drivers by supporting more efficient operation of supply chains, major transport operations such as ports, and in total around 156 kilometres of road and rail corridor will be connected to 5G and other access networks along the A55 corridor and adjacent mainline rail route. There's the connecting the final few percent, and this project really is about targeting universal superfast coverage across North Wales. So really getting into those areas that perhaps have not received the commercial investment in the infrastructure build programme to date. And we aim to create a really equal level playing field in that respect, giving it access to at least 30 megabits of download speeds. The other programme, project which I mentioned within digital, is around innovation. It's in partnership with Bangor University, and it's called an investment in digital signal processing. And it brings together academia to work alongside international companies, really, and also the Welsh SME sector, enabling them to work together to explore what we would call disruptive solutions for 5G. So really innovating on how we can get the best applications for 5G connectivity and really squeeze the benefit out of that connectivity, and using the DSP as almost a test bed for this research, and innovation. Moving on to the next project which we'll look at, which is the Land and Property Programme. In Land and Property, we've got several key projects. I'll start with the, firstly to explain, the Land and Property Programme addresses a shortage of suitable land and suitable properties for businesses to grow, and also brings forward some key sites for housing development and deliver improvements that will stimulate the investment in the Port of Holyhead and the wider region as a result. These projects play a huge enabling role for the other programmes in the growth deal, ensuring that we've got serviced sites available for investors and for developers. Firstly, just to touch on the Holyhead Gateway project, this is in partnership with Stena Line, and it's to future-proof the Holyhead port by providing a new deep water heavy loading cruise facilities, improved vehicle access, and guaranteeing the future of the breakwater there at Holyhead. Then we've got a project around regional land and property. And we've got several that fall into the regional land and property project, which is first one being Wrexham Gateway, the growth deal of funding, providing the funding necessary for statutory consents and to deliver primary services, so that Wrexham Gateway site can be brought to the market for sale and development. A site at Warren Hall in Flintshire, which will receive growth deal funding necessary for the statutory consents, and again delivering primary services. The site is 65 hectares and it's a mixed use site. We've then got the Bodell Withen Key Strategic site, which is within Denbighshire. This is a mixed use commercial and residential development of around 137 hectares. And again, growth deal funding provides the primary services to enable this site to be brought to the market for development. And we've got the Denbigh Hospital site. A planning application has been submitted, and this brings forward the commercial case for mixed commercial and residential development. Again, the growth deal funding assists in the delivery of a cleared and remediated site with primary services. And then finally, Bryn Cecyn, which is a strategic site in Bangor, and this will provide industrial floor space to meet the known demand for commercial units. Moving on to look at the final three programmes, and these focus really on our key strengths in the region in high value sectors. The programmes are aimed at increasing the value and impact of these high growth sectors. The first one being low carbon energy, and the aim of this programme is to unlock economic benefits of transformational low carbon energy projects, position North Wales really as a leading UK location for low carbon energy generation, also innovation and supply chain investment. I'll run through the projects in the low carbon energy programme. First of all, we've got Model Ice, which is a marine energy project with Menter Môn, investing in infrastructure that connects the Model Ice zone with the electricity grid, and preparing the site for private sector developers who then lease parts of the zone for deploying various different tidal energy solutions, some of them anchored to the seabed, some of them sitting mid-flow between the seabed and the surface, and others floating on the surface. Those technologies will utilise Model Ice as a test bed in designated zones or berths within the designated area. We've then got Trawsfynydd Power Station. The Trawsfynydd site is uniquely placed for a first of a kind deployment of small modular reactors or SMRs, or also advanced modular reactors, AMRs, due to its status and the fact that it's a publicly owned asset. And we've got highly skilled workforce in the area, as well as a supportive community. Alongside the public and the private sector, the growth deal will contribute funding towards the enabling infrastructure for the development to go ahead. We've then got a low carbon energy centre of excellence with Bangor University. This is an investment in the development of facilities at Bangor University and also at Menai Science Park, MSpark, to enhance the North Wales and UK capability for innovation in low carbon energy and in related areas. So helping really to create the conditions for new inward investment to come in and businesses to grow in the low carbon energy supply chain across North Wales. Then we've got Smart Local Energy. This is a project that's really starting to see scope now. It will really help to achieve renewable energy, decarbonisation and local ownership targets. And the project supports innovation and enabling projects really that and demonstrators that overcome some of the market failures and provide the ability to unlock private and community sector investment in smart local energy solutions. And then finally, we've got transport decarbonisation. So this is a project that's been delivered by us, the North Wales Economic Ambition Board, through the growth deal to support delivery of a demonstrator project involving the production of green hydrogen from low carbon energy sources, and then applying that green hydrogen within the regional transport networks to driving towards a low carbon economy. Moving on, we've got innovation in high value manufacturing. And this programme looks to consolidate North Wales's position already as a really powerful and innovative high value manufacturing cluster. So it builds on our existing specialisms and it will lead to expertise to create higher value, more diverse economic base that supports a transition to a more low carbon economy in manufacturing. So we've got two key projects in this programme. Both of them are with academic partners. The first one is the Centre for Environmental Biotechnology with Bangor University. The Centre for Engineering Biotechnology is a world-leading centre in the discovery and characterisation of novel extremophilic enzymes. I'm not a scientist, but the ability to characterize these enzymes and see how they can be of relevance in industry, that is exactly what the centre is doing. So looking at attracting global world-leading researchers into the centre, attracting significant public and commercial research funding and inward investment into the region, already building on the capability that they have at Bangor University. And then we've got the Enterprise Engineering and Optics Centre. This is a project with Glyndŵr University, and it will provide facilities in Wrexham and in St Asaph, targeted to boost high-level skills development for the region and enable small and medium enterprises and large businesses to work in partnership hand in hand with Wrexham Glyndŵr University on commercially driven research and development that really focuses on our strengths in optics, in hydrogen, in composites. So will seriously help on decarbonising our economy as well. And then finally, the Agri-Food and Tourism Programme. To build this will help again to build on sustainability, optimising opportunities for employment and prosperity through our environment and our landscapes. So we've got three key projects within this programme. The first one being Tourism Talent Network with Grŵp Llanrillo Menai. This is all about future-proofing a pipeline of skills provision increasing commercial benefits from what is one of our most established sectors in the region, that visitor sector, that sort of tourism and hospitality and visitor sector. We are, of course, under huge pressure currently from COVID in this sector. So we're constantly monitoring and evaluating how we move forward with this project to ensure that we can create opportunities for high skills that can meet the demand within the sector for those high skills, and start to demonstrate that a career in the sector can be high value and rewarding. We're also working with Grŵp Llandrillo Menai on a project with Glyn Llibon to create the Glyn Llibon Rural Economy Hub. And the vision here is to create a distinctive world-class rural economy hub at Glyn Llibon site in Carnarvon, offering a range of facilities and services to strengthen and to enhance the regional economy, and specifically through growing the food and drink sector. And then finally, we've got an investment planned with Llysfasi and Coleg Cambria as the partner there to deliver a carbon neutral farm. And this aims to lead North Wales to a more resilient future where carbon neutral land management is in the question. The centre itself at Llysfasi will be at the centre of developing sort of renewable sector innovation, supporting sustainable and thriving healthy community, and covering the rural and urban mix of the region. So that was a very quick canter through all of our projects. I would like to hand over to Head now, who can take you through a high-level summary of the quarterly and the annual report, which is contained within your reading pack for today. Thank you very much for listening, and over to you, Head.
Diolch yn fawr, Alwen. If we can move on to the next slide, and just one more forward. So starting with the quarterly performance report. So this is our first quarterly report on the growth deal, and provides an overview of the progress on the growth deal since it was agreed by all the partners last year, and that we signed the final deal in December. The focus primarily during this period, so January to March this year, has been moving on to the delivery phase. And it's really important to note at this point that all of our projects within the North Wales Growth Deal are still in what we call the business case development phase. So they're working on their business cases. They've not been approved, and they're not delivering yet. So the focus was moving into this phase. And we started in January with a review of all the projects to reconfirm timetables and to enable us to move on to start as the leader has set out earlier in the meeting today, the quite intensive and robust project development, assurance and approval process that each one of our projects have to go through to make sure that we meet the requirements of both governments as set out in the final deal agreement. And this primarily involves developing business cases to the Better Business Case guidance, which is the 5-case model and the Green Book. So a big part of this is that business cases are not developed in isolation. They're developed through a number of specific workshops that are aligned to the relevant cases and provide an opportunity to involve a large number of stakeholders and to test assumptions that have been made, to agree options and delivery models. And that was a major focus of this quarter for our projects. Another part of our assurance process is that every project within the growth deal has to go through a gateway review. So this is a recognised HM Treasury process, which is an independent evaluation of projects ahead of key decision points. And they're arranged through the Welsh Government, but are carried out by an independent panel that assess the readiness of the project to move forward. And during this quarter, we had our first 2 projects go through that process. So the Morlice project, which as the leader mentioned, actually went to the board as an outline business case last Friday and was endorsed to move on to the next stage. During March, they completed their Gateway 2 review. And we also had the Enterprise Engineering and Optics Centre project by Wrexham Glyndŵr University complete their first Gateway 1 review. Move on to the next slide, Alwen. In terms of the projects, which you can see set out by each programme in the report, we have 2 projects that are currently reporting as red, and these are the key strategic site in Bodo Wyddon, and that's primarily due to the outline planning permission having been expired. So there are questions about what the scope of that project will be moving forward, and we're working closely with colleagues at Denbighshire County Council to understand what that new planning policy picture might look like for the site. And the Holyhead Gateway project, which is quite a large project, and costs are escalating in that project, particularly around the breakwater work that's required, which may require a review of the scope of the project. So those 2 projects, because of the risks around scope, are reporting as red. We have a number of projects which are currently reporting as amber, and this is primarily due to the business case development time frame taking longer than originally estimated due to the intensive process that we have to go through. So each of the projects does go through both a gateway review and a review at the programme board, the portfolio board, before being moved on for consideration by the board itself, which is adding on to the original estimated time schedules. But there are no significant concerns around those projects. It's just taking a little bit longer than anticipated to go through the process. And finally, our most significant achievement during Q4 was that we received the grant award letter from Welsh Government and submitted the required documentation and received the first instalment of 16 million from the government. So the 16 million funding comes annually. It's on the basis of a grant award letter and us demonstrating that we've met all the conditions required. So a significant milestone for us to get that first tranche of funding in before the end of the last financial year, which means we are able to get another one this year, subject to completing the required information, which puts us financially in a really positive position moving forward to invest in projects over this financial year that we're in. If we can move forward, Alwen, I'll just quickly run through some of the highlights from the annual report. So the annual report looks back on all the progress that we've made over the last financial year, primarily focused on the growth deal, but does include some of the other activities supported by the Portfolio Management Office. And it recognises in particular how challenging 2020-21 was as a year for everyone, with COVID changing our lives and the way that we work. Specifically for us as a team, we were a new team that formed in January 2020, and we only spent 2.5 months together in the office before transitioning to a virtual team. And despite those challenges and the additional work caused by COVID and supporting the regional recovery efforts, we were able to secure the final deal agreement on the 17th of January 2020, so within the original timescales that were set, which was quite an achievement. And that final deal, of course, is the contract with government, which sets out what we intend to deliver and how we will report and manage that. A few other highlights from the year. We were very successful early on in the year in securing 2.9 million in ESF revenue funding to support the staff within the Portfolio Management Office. And a large proportion of the year has been spent recruiting and developing the team to the point where now we only have 2 vacant positions, and are in quite the unusual situation of 3/4 of the team having never actually met in person. But I think we've developed quite a good way of working virtually, but we're all looking forward to getting back to the office at some point. As I mentioned in the quarterly report, we've done a lot on gateway reviews, in addition to the 2 project reviews that we spoke of. The portfolio had to go through a gateway review in August last year ahead of the final deal agreement, which was a challenging but positive process for us to go through, and demonstrated to the governments that we had put in place the necessary arrangements and governance structures to enable us to deliver the deal. We've spent a lot of time training members of the team in the better business case methodology to make sure that we're able to develop our business cases to the standards required by government, and we're also able to review those produced by our partners internally within the team. And finally, a large proportion of the year has been spent working very closely with the 6 local authorities across North Wales, UK and Welsh Government to coordinate the regional response to economic recovery. Thank you. That's a very quick run through of the 2 performance reports in the pack, and happy to take any questions. Diolch yn fawr.
Well, thank you to Alwyn and Had for that. Very interesting report. I'll start off with the questions. I have got Emrys and Merritt waiting to ask a question, but can I just ask you, you've had the first 16 million and you've almost secured all the admin staffing, minus 2 posts. Can I ask how much all of that is going to cost, please? Anybody?
I'm not sure I completely understand the question, Chair. So if I perhaps clarify the difference in the funding that I was referring to. So the 16 million that we've received from government is the first tranche of the growth deal capital funding. So it is the funding for the projects. It's the first instalment of the 240 million, which will be paid on an annual basis over the next 15 years. So that's the capital funding for the projects. The 2.9 million in ESF funding that we've secured is the revenue funding for the portfolio management office over a 3-year period. So that is matched by contributions from the partners themselves. So the total revenue funding is just under 6 million for that first 3-year period. Does that answer your question, Chair?
No, that was much more simple than that. It was just, how much is it all going to cost in administration and staffing costs total? A lot.
The total for the first 3 years is just under 6 million. We don't have a revenue profile beyond that at this stage.
So 6 million is going to be taken out of the 214 total million in administration and staffing costs.
No, Chair, the 6 million is funded separately by the European funding grant that we've received and by the partner contributions.
Okay, thank you. Emrys, I know you're having technical difficulties, Emrys, but are you able to ask a question?
I'm in at the moment. I hope I don't disappear. I've lost connection 3 times. So I think it's problems my end, though, to be fair. Yeah, diolch yn fawr am y cyflwyniadau.
Yes, thank you for the presentations. I've got 3 questions, to be honest, and I think maybe Hayes has dealt with one of them, but I'll ask them all the same because they're down here. Regarding the amber and red situation, I'm looking at the first appendix. We're in paragraph 4.9, where they refer to the second project in the red area because of risks that could happen. That's a concern that Hayes has explained, and he's also explained the amber ones. But if I could connect that with paragraph 4.7, where there is a reference to the projects, and I'm only reading between the lines, but it sounds as if the Model Ice project has a business plan that is very promising and that maybe is going to develop, hopefully very successfully, and I hope the same is true for the Glyndŵr University project. But it appears to me that maybe Glyndŵr University have had to go back to their business plan to revisit that more thoroughly. Could you explain that, that impression that I'm getting, please? I think Alwen is the person who referred to that. That's my first question. And the second one, digital connectivity. There's a great emphasis on this in the report. And 5G is being rolled out, and I hope it'll come to Aragorn and Ruthin especially. Page 28, you talk about full fibre in many places and connectivity, but they've been delayed. According to a report I've seen, it's been delayed, and it doesn't go with what I heard in the reports that everything was going well. And the third question regards to Trawsfynydd energy, small modular reactors, and the option of advanced model reactors. Does that mean more or does it mean stronger? I'll take the first question. In terms of the Model Ice project and Glyndŵr, they were going through the gateway views at different times in the project. So Model Ice went through what they call Gateway 2, which is on the outline business case, ready for a decision of the board. After that, the Glyndŵr project was going for Gateway 1, so earlier on in the process, looking at whether the strategic application is in place for the project, and because of that they're developing the outline business case for the project. So nothing has changed on the journey for the project, but because the project is less mature than the Model Ice project, Gateway 1 enabled them to get independent people to look at the project and provide inputs to work on the OBC. So there are no concerns there. There are two business applications on different points in the journey. So you're happy with both projects as they are at the moment and where they stand at the moment? Yes, we are. If I could also take the question on the digital programme, there are 4 projects, infrastructure projects, run by the Portfolio Office in the programme, and 2 of them have been delayed at the moment because of capacity in the office. So we have prioritised 2 out of 4 projects to move forward with now, and they are moving on time, on the expected timetable, and the other 2 will be picked up at the end of the year. So there are no problems with the projects. We've just profiled the 4 in order to manage the team's capacity to move things forward. Thank you for that. The problem we're having is the fact that it says that things had been delayed, and yet the report seems very positive. Yes, that's a good point. I can understand that. It's because we took that decision quite quickly in the process. Although they've been delayed, they're still running according to the timetable we were expecting, because we weren't expecting the 4 to be running now at the same time. Thank you. And I'm not an expert, but I will try and provide an answer on the small and advanced modular reactors. Advanced in terms of technology and not the size of the places. We're not talking about more, we're talking about smarter.
Sorry to interrupt your head, but I must move on. I'm known for going over time and I don't intend to today because the leader's here. Reese?
Thank you. I have two questions, please. The first one is a point. Could I draw your attention to Appendix 1 in the document here? Page 5. Full fibre at key sites. Can you say, I'm sorry, I can't hear. Can we see what is green and going well, what is amber, and there is a bit of concern, and what is red, where there is a problem? When I look at these now, you have asked us to give comments and to provide feedback. I'm not sure whether projects that haven't been started yet should be shown in green, because it makes us think that the project is going ahead. Because what it says is delivering to plan with no issues. And maybe that the plan is that it hasn't yet started. But maybe it shouldn't be showing that everything is fine, because it's the same colour as projects that have started and that are going well. And to me, it confuses someone like me until I look at further details later on. So I was a little bit unhappy that something that hadn't been started was shown as being with no problems. There may be a way, there should be a way of saying that this hasn't started yet. That was the comment. I'm sorry, I might be splitting hairs here, but I'd like to give a response here. This is something we've discussed as a portfolio office. We have created this report as it is at the moment against the timeline. As we move forward, I think maybe we will have to look at a way of putting a status on projects according to the timeline and also according to the delivery timescales within the programme. So it's likely in the future that there will be two sets of RAG. But we can look at making the report clearer in terms of that, and I acknowledge what you're saying. Thank you, Alwen. The other question for somebody like me, and there are two of us on the Scrutiny Committee who are involved with the LDP within Denbighshire and strategic planning. Now, I'd like you to explain how you see some of the plans, such as the TV. Sorry, I'm having difficulty hearing. When they're preparing for the LDP, if I could just give you an example, say that the LDP committee get data that so much housing development is required in a town such as Ruthin or Denby, and we know exactly what the needs are there. And then this plan comes, a new plan such as Bodel Wyddan or the North Wales Hospital site in Denby, that comes into the mix. And those are large projects. And the members who are on the LDP committee, they will then find it very difficult to see, well, this is the local need, but this is what comes from above, as it were. And on top of that, sorry, it's breaking up again, I can't hear. In 2040, which earmarks the Northeast for some kinds of developments. Do you see this as a problem, or do you have a means of solving this, just as a matter of interest for those interests who are involved in this in Denbighshire? I hope that question is clear. There are different levels of planning here. Is there a means of tying them together? Thank you.
Dwi'n meddwl nes i deall y cwestiwn,
I think I understood the question there, but it did break up a bit. There's an important point to be made in terms of how we work regionally, and that we have a close contact, a very close contact with all the local authorities through the link officers. Graham, in this instance, I'd like to invite Graham to come in to help with this question, because in my view, we have got a strong relationship regionally with every authority who have their own link officers who ensure that those questions are being asked and that there is a response regionally through the projects that we support in the growth programme, and that they coincide with the more local expectations.
I've missed a little bit of there.
Sorry, you're breaking up as well.
Yeah, I'll turn my camera off. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? I'm going to address myself to Alwen first, because I missed that last bit. Do you want me to come in now, Alwen? Is that the idea?
Yes, please, Graham.
Yeah, good. Okay. We could spend a long time answering that question, I guess, Reece. It's a good question. The chair will have to pull. We haven't got long. How long have I got, Chair?
I'll give you 3 seconds.
That gets me out of having to answer the question. That's not fair on Reece. I'll let me answer it this way, Reece. I think there are 2 issues here. One is the architecture of planning, if you like, how it's being worked nationally. So we know that Welsh Government have introduced their kind of national plan, and we know that that local authorities have their LDPs. And now, of course, there's a requirement in legislation for regions to produce a regional plan. Now, we haven't started the regional plan yet. So in the future, it'll be quite straightforward, I guess. There'll be a national plan, and then the regional plan should take its lead from the national plan, and then the local LDPs will need to take their lead from the regional plan. But we seem to be some way off that. We haven't even started the regional plan. So at the moment, and for the foreseeable future, it will be difficult, and it'll be a little bit of a muddle. Dare I use that word, muddle? I think it will be complex around how those things all start to emerge, because they're all at different stages. So it's not going to be easy. But let's answer it. I said there was 2 parts. The other thing is where in that short term, the power in planning rests with the local authority, because only the local authority can develop the LDP. So you have the control there. So in terms of that local need example that you've given, you're absolutely right. We as a council need to balance up what the local need is against any growth that we might want to introduce. And in the end, it will be us as the local authority that allocate sites in the LDP. Now, the region isn't enforcing that situation upon us. So the base beta, if you like, comes from the housing need, which comes from Welsh Government. So we can have we can't go below the housing need. We can meet the housing need, but we do have an option to go above the housing need if we wanted a kind of growth approach. And that's where I think your Bottle Withen comes in. And that's why I think Heather said in his introduction, in his discussion there, that Bottle Withen's a difficult project now for the region, because it doesn't want to deliver a project that Denbighshire doesn't support. And the current Bottle Withen project is in question because the outline planning permission has lapsed. And what we know is that that level of demand is not currently there. So we doubt that we would produce a plan that replicates the existing position at the LDP. So it's a difficult position for the region to progress a project because it really wants to wait until Denbighshire has nailed its colours to its mast around what it wants to do with Bottle Withen, and that's still an ongoing discussion. So a bit longer than 3 seconds, Chair, but I hope that's kind of broadly answered it for...
Yeah. And very clearly, Graham, so I'll move on. And let's Gwyneth come in now, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jeanette. Un o'r pethau fyswn i'n licio gofyn.
One of the things I'd like to ask is, with regards to agriculture, this is a very important sector. How will this be affected if the country make an agreement with Australia? And the second point, we want our young people to stay here and get good jobs, but you have house building projects, and what I hear now is that there are lots of houses have been built here in Denbighshire, in Denby, and so many are sold straight away, bought for cash from people from south of England. What can you do to make the house prices more acceptable for young people? Thank you.
O ran y cwestiwn
In terms of the first question with regards to a commercial agreement with Australia, I'm not in a position to respond to that. We've got a project, a very pioneering project with Coleg Cambria in Llysfasi that looks at how pioneering or innovation will help us to see an improvement in the ability to be productive in the agricultural field, so to create some kind of carbon neutral farm in order for us to provide education and a place for innovation within the region, within the education and agriculture field, that will then enable us not only to show that we can run a farm carbon neutral in a carbon neutral way, but we can also provide the means of innovation and testing some of this technology that's going to enable the new generation in the agriculture sector to be more innovative and more productive in the agricultural field. So I'm confident that the investment that's going into the Agriculture College at Llysfasi is going to push the limits a bit in terms of teaching and helping the sector in a way to see how they can act on the farm, which is supportive to the low carbon targets, and that also offers innovative actions for them to create better produce and produce for the markets that we have. And I think in a way, because it's a matter for the government in terms of the agreements, the commercial agreements with other countries, but I think the most we can concentrate on is to put innovation at the centre of the agriculture sector. Education for the next generation to learn the methods that are supportive of carbon neutral farming. So we're preparing the new generation in the agriculture industry to create the produce and hope.
In the report, actually, and I've got other speakers wanting to come in, so I'm really sorry, but I've got to keep to the timetable, and we're well over now. So, Hugh Irving.
One quick comment and two quick questions. Comment firstly with my scrutineer's hat on, because I believe that's what we're here and expected to do. Little bit of an eyebrow raising there when I looked at the administration costs for the project. So the question is, are we within the planned budget for administering this project? That's the second one. That's the first question. I'll follow on quickly with the second, which Graham was partially addressed. As I understand this on the red markers, the Bodelwyddan development, or the Bodelwyddan project that has been, to my certain knowledge, going through the council in one form or another for about 9 years now, is dead in the water because the planning permission has expired. Therefore, it requires the existing proposed developer or a new one to come forward and work up a new plan. That's all going to be a very lengthy business. So do we actually ever anticipate anything going forward on that site? So that's one comment and two questions.
Oh, thank you. Nice and sweet. Good questions. Thank you.
Hez, do you want to take the budget one? I think we can be very concise with this one.
Yes, we are within the planned budget, and I think I would probably leave the Bodelwyddan question to Graham.
Yeah, Heath, happy to do that. Yeah, no, Hugh, I wouldn't say it's dead in the water, but I think you're right. It's been a long-running project for a number of years and it's not been delivered. It's for us now to decide whether or not we want to allocate it in the new LDP or not, and what scale of any allocation. So we're in control. We can, if you like, the existing allocation is, I think, dead in the water. I think that's fair enough. The 1,700 houses, 25 hectares of employment land. That outline consent has gone. Is it still a good site for development? Is there still opportunity to bring some employment and housing to that site? Can the North Wales Economic Ambition Board help to bring any allocation forward? They are questions over the coming weeks and months that we need to answer. What won't happen is we won't be forced to do anything by the Economic Ambition Board. The Economic Ambition Board are waiting for us to decide what we want to do with Bodelwyddan in terms of the new LDP and any new allocation. I hope that answers the question, Chair. Thank you.
Well, yes, and quickly following on from that, therefore, because judging by the amount of opposition there was to the earlier scheme, it will be a long process if another scheme comes forward. How long will the Ambition Board wait?
I think that's a good question, because if we remain indecisive over a long period of time, or we allocate something that isn't viable and there's no kind of interest in bringing it forward, then, and I can't speak for the Economic Ambition Board, but I think it's fair to assume they won't wait forever. There are timescales in order for this money to be spent, and they'll need to switch that potential investment into other projects, be it they in Denbighshire or be they elsewhere in the region.
And we don't have a follow-up project to go in to replace it.
Oh, we've got plenty of projects, Hugh. Don't worry about that. Not necessarily at Bodelwyddan, but I'd be, as a council, I'm sure we could put any number of projects forward for consideration by the Economic Ambition Board, should Bodelwyddan fail. But I guess there's other authorities would be in a similar position, saying, well, if any of our existing projects don't come forward, they would also have a suite of potential projects. And I think the region would have to view what was ever best for the region, because it's a regional economic strategy.
I remember the debate when Denbighshire decided to sign up for this Ambition Board, and it would seem to me that Bodelwyddan is one of our principal planks. And without the Bodelwyddan project or a replacement, one wonders how viable it is for Denbighshire to be part of the Ambition Board, because they've lost so much of our, otherwise, basically, we're not going to get a lot out of it, are we? Unless we can potentially find a replacement or take a scheme forward. Those are my scrutineering comments, but I think there's a concern there, and no wonder there's a big red risk on it.
I think if I can just come back quickly, Chair, on that, I still think even without the Bottle Witham project, and we're not saying there isn't going to be a Bottle Witham project, we're saying there's some risks around the Bottle Witham project that we in Denbighshire have to resolve. There might still be an allocation there. They're questions that still have to be answered. But even without a Bottle Witham project, I'm pretty convinced there's enough in the Economic Ambition Board and the growth deal to ensure that Denbighshire will gain and will benefit from it, from the economy. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that.
Just to assure you, Hugh, we will be keeping our eye on this, and they will be coming back to our scrutiny. So it was good points made, and we'll keep an eye on it. Okay.
Thank you.
I've got now, Joan, did you want to come in? Joan, you're on mute.
Yeah, I've just come off mute. I feel quite disadvantaged, Chair, at this meeting. I've heard very little of what's gone on. The audio has been dreadful on my machine. I do apologise that I'm not able to contribute as fully as I would have liked to have done. I've heard one or two things. I didn't hear anything from Rhys, or I knew the questions were being given and answered, but I am sorry, I'm taking time up saying how much trouble I've had this morning in the audio thing. In the recording, I just can't hear properly what's going on.
Don't worry, Joan, it's okay. No
but
problem.
I just, if people can hear me, Chair, I am very excited about this programme. I do realise that we are scrutinising it. I take on board what Hugh has said, because I heard what he was saying. It came back on at the very end, and I do agree with him that there is a lot of fragility in and around our major project, as it were. But I do also have an awful lot of confidence that this is going to be the way forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Joan. And last speaker now, I'm going to ask for Merrick.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry that I was late arriving. We're having problems as usual. Page 5 of the report, if I may, Alwen and Hedd. Status, programme status, OBC. I can't see what OBC stands for. Could I thank you, for both of you, for calling the new horizon that we're all working towards, and I praise your reports. Because we've depended so much now on facilitating the strength of the internet and Zoom this morning and so on, what government is dragging its feet in terms of providing 5G? We're still losing contributors on Zoom. The contact is made and you have to switch the picture off. Like this morning, it's untidy. Thank you.
Thank you, Merrick. Thanks very much. I'm now going to go to the recommendations.
Is there an answer, please, Chair? Could I come in to answer the question with regards to OBC? Outline business case is what it stands for. It's in English on the Welsh report. Yes, we'll have to look into changing that. Yes, outline business case. It's part of the process that we're following with the Treasury to take the business applications forward. The outline business case will go forward to be a final business case eventually. What about the second part of the question? Yes, I agree. Part of the digital program responds to the places that are maybe out in rural areas and maybe the not so rural areas who suffer from poor connection. This is part of the investment that we're making in the growth programme. You've heard this morning, Rhyl, Denby and Ruthin are having problems, and I'm not sure if I'm coming over clearly, but it seems that I am. I'm near St Asaph. Right, yes, I know Cymeriadog. Barry is on the call this morning. I don't know whether he wants to come in, but I think it is important that we look at these matters, and possibly with you as councillors, so we should look at where you are based, because that you can provide us good information with where the network needs attention. And I'm quite happy to pick that up with Barry. Thank you.
Happy with that, Merrick? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
And I've got an Emrys who just wants to come in then.
Very, very briefly. Going back to these colours, I'm on page 32 in the pack. Decisions are expected on the planning application. I'm talking about the North Wales Hospital site now in April 2021. I'm sure whether we can keep that on green as it is, because we're still waiting. So I'd like to suggest kindly that should be amber and not green, because certainly no application has received the planning committee, and it will be into June by the time we have the next meeting. Thank you. We'll revise that at our next meeting.
Thank you, Hef. Okay.
Thank you.
We will now go to the recommendation, which is that members consider the contents of the annual report and provide comments and feedback. And I think we've done that very well. And I thank the officers involved for answering the questions so well. I'm sorry I've had to skip in time, but I do my best to keep it all on track. So thank you very much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. Can I have a show of hands now, please, for the recommendation? A proposer and seconder, Joan and Hugh Irving. And everybody agrees, thank you. Okay. Thanks very much. We'll now go immediately on to agenda item 7, which is the scrutiny work programme. Can I ask Rianne to start us off with this, please?
Yeah. The model.
This is your usual scrutiny work programme. The work programme for the future meetings are to be seen in Appendix 1, which is on page 71. You'll see from the report today that there is a plan today for representatives of the Beti Cadwaladr Health Board to be at the meeting to provide an update on the capital programmes that are being planned for Denbighshire, specifically the new hospital at Rhyl, and also many smaller projects across the county. An application was made to the chair recently to ask whether this item could be delayed for a while, just because the officers of the health board were expecting to hear back from the Welsh Government regarding their business plan in terms of the new hospital in Rhyl. So as I believe, there is no problem, but the government weren't responding to anything whilst or before the election. So now there's a new minister in place. They are expecting an answer very soon on that. So you'll see from the work programme that that item, it says date to be confirmed. We just need to hear from them when they'll get the information through. If it'll be necessary to hold a special meeting on that, we can do that on that item. Otherwise, we're quite confident that it'll be with us by the 8th of July. There are no items that have come from the chairs and vice chairs group for you at their last meeting. So on your work programme for the next meeting, the 8th of July, you have the annual report on adult safeguarding. The report that was requested regarding active travel plan schemes and the COVID-19 fund, and the lessons learned from that, and also another item with representatives from the Health Board on heart failure services in Denbighshire and its impact on the Council's social care services. So you've got at least 3 items, maybe 4, for the 8th of July, if that's all right with you. And Councillor Rhys-Thomas mentioned earlier these briefing meetings that we used to have prior to the scrutiny programme committees. And I did say at the last meeting that I'd raise this issue with the chairs and vice chairs group, because the problem we have is that even though the meetings are virtual, it creates a bit more work in terms of holding these meetings. We did have a discussion on this at the chairs and vice chairs group, but what was decided was that there is a possibility for us to hold these meetings, but because staff have to be in the chamber in Ruthin to set up the equipment for the formal meeting, the chair and myself would have to be in another room in County Hall and contact everybody else on a different connection to the main meeting, and because of that it would give us quite a tight schedule in terms of holding the meeting. We'd have to start about 9 and finish by 9:30 to allow us more time to come into the chamber and for everybody to connect to the main meeting. Maybe what we'd do would be to hold the briefing meeting over Teams and then using Zoom for the main meeting. It was also decided, the chairs felt that maybe there isn't a need for a briefing before every scrutiny committee, but they as chairs and vice chairs would decide when that would be beneficial. If you as members feel that a meeting like that would be beneficial, if you could put in a request in plenty of time to the chair or vice chair so that this could be arranged. I don't know whether you've got any comments on that.
Okay, I've got some speakers. Hugh?
Thank you. Now, Mike, I won't comment on that. I'll leave that to others. My comment was on this July the 8th hopeful meeting with Betsy Cadwallader. I think anybody in the north of the county will have concerns over the long time it's taken to replace the Alexandra and Chatsworth House community hospitals. It's a real concern, and we have real fears about slippage on the project work, what the future is. So I hope the board will be able to come to us on that date, and I hope we can have a robust scrutiny on their update report, though I do appreciate they're probably being held back by powers outside of their own control. But I just wanted to make that point. If we're able to feed it back to Betsy Carlos, we really do wish to see them as urgently as possible with these proposals. I'm sure the real members will come along with me on that one.
Yeah. Hugh, I have discussed with Rian that this possibly is one of those meetings that we do need a pre-meeting.
Yeah, I would think
It possibly could be a one item. It may mean we're waiting for them to come back to us. It may be an additional partnership scrutiny meeting on this particular topic, because there is, and I know you'll have so many questions to ask. So Rian, am I right in that we could do that?
Yes, we can do that. I'm just waiting for them just to come back to me with an indication of exactly when they'll hear.
Like we said, we don't know exactly when they're coming back, but I am but Rhiannon and I have discussed it. I would have a pre-meeting to that meeting, and I would like it to be a stand-alone item. I think that is the best way forward. That's what I've requested. And Rhiannon is, as she says, she's in agreement with me on that. So we shouldn't have a problem. Okay, so I'll bring Rhys in now.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to ask whether an option for members of this group then would be to meet informally amongst ourselves. We can arrange a Zoom meeting the night before. I agree, it would be more like a chat around the coffee machine than a formal 1 hour meeting before that. But there's, I guess, nothing to stop us just arranging to meet and to discuss the coming agenda, should we want to. It's just a suggestion, whichever way. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rhys. And I think what we need to do is look at the issues that are coming before us, and trust me, I will make a decision whether or not we need a pre-meeting. But I will only do that when I feel it's necessary, or one of our members of the scrutiny feel they really want me to do that. And I'm open to that suggestion, but we'll have to see as we go along. And to be honest with you, I hope it won't be long before we are actually able to meet together and have the chat. Although they don't provide coffee here anymore now. So I suggest we all bring a hip flask. Yeah?
As long as you bring biscuits, Chair, we'll be happy.
Oh, yeah. I'm afraid I've eaten all the mince pies and all the biscuits now going, which you can see I'm growing now, width-wise. I'll bring Joan in now.
Thank you, Chair. I really don't disagree with Rhys's idea of having a group pre-thing, sort of a hybrid briefing before. I do appreciate what you've said, Chair, and I do know that you will, wherever possible, bring the pre-meetings in as and when necessary. But I do think sometimes, as of the meeting today, which was particularly difficult for me, I've got to say, I'm not sure why, but I do believe that if it is a very contentious issue, and I think the hospital one is, and I know we're going to have a pre-meeting on that, but the hospital one in Frill has been rolling on for years and years and years and years, and just need to move to it. But I do think that there are issues like the one today, which was very technical, very new, very different to how we've been working in the past. I think it might be good for us all to touch base, perhaps the day before or whenever on a Zoom meeting, to discuss it between ourselves as a scrutiny committee. I don't see that there's any problem with that, and I think that might be very, very useful. But those are my thoughts on it. But I do appreciate, Chair, that you will bring the pre-meetings in as and when we do need them. But as I've said, the hospital one is pretty contentious and does need resolving as quickly as possible, and let's get the scrutiny done on it again. Although it has been to us before many times, and we have scrutinised it before, but the resolve has never been productive. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Joan. And as I say, you're all welcome as members to notify me and say, I particularly would like a pre-meeting on this. And possibly it may have to be of an evening. You know, we're all busy, and it could well be fitting in for everybody to join that meeting may be difficult, but we will try, and we will try to accommodate everybody. But I'll be keeping my eye on it, rest assured, Joan. Merrick.
Thank you, Chair. Could I turn to page 76, the 8th of July, number 3, you've drawn attention to it. I was listening to the news this morning, and I think there was a complaint that Gwynedd, regarding the heart failure services, so I'm sure you'll keep an eye on that.
With my record, Merrick, of keeping time, you know I will do that. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Rhian. We've got a report back from Christine that Rhian is going to read to us now.
Yeah, this is on the feedback from committee representatives. Unfortunately, Councillor Christine Marston couldn't be with us today, but she has attended 2 different meetings in a row as a representative from this committee. The first one was on the 22nd of March. She attended the Stakeholders Reference Group for Betty Cadwallader University Health Board, and I'll read her report here. The 3-year plan has been delayed for the Health Board due to COVID. Therefore, they're working on a year ahead plan. When recovery phase commences, they will address the backlog. And with regards to planned care, BCU are hoping to create capacity. On the COVID vaccine, they're looking to achieve 6 to 8 week window for the second dose, with a plan not to need the vaccine centres after July. The digital strategy engagement has started, but it has constraints due to COVID, and the aim is to implement a single digital patient record. And they discussed the introduction of targeted intervention improvement framework, looking to improve how the Health Board runs and operates with the aim of improving performance. The second meeting she attended was to do with the Children's Residential Unit Project Board. That was held on the 18th of May. They've now decided that the name of the new unit is Bwthyn Hall, and it's situated between the police headquarters and Arias Park in Colwyn Bay. The tripartite collaboration between Denbighshire, Conwy and the Health Board, and the project spend is around £2.6 million. On-site construction starts in June with the completion date of May 2022. This centre will accommodate Conwy and Denbighshire children for intensive therapeutic treatment, with 3 areas within the facility: planned inpatient care, unplanned inpatient care and assessment area. Multidisciplinary members are already in place, so interim plans are now being drawn up to accommodate children in need of care now, with temporary accommodation in Colwyn Bay. Work is also being done on the ongoing running costs of the units for the future.
Oh, thank you. Can I just ask, will Christine be able to, you know, she's Vice Chair, will she be able to continue on our scrutiny? Yeah, and on that group. Oh, that's good news, isn't it?
Well, yeah, she's our rep on that group, so
Yeah,
while she's
right,
on
yeah.
a member of this committee, she can continue on that one as well.
Brilliant. Thanks very much for that. And thanks for Christine for sending it in to us. There being no other business, I say thank you very much. Enjoy a cup of tea, and I'll see you next time. Thanks very much for coming.
Diolch yn fawr, Cadeirydd.
Diolch yn fawr.